All right, excellent. Well, today I am joining Randy from my phone, so this is going to be a little bit a different scenario for me. But we're going to be going through step five in the 12-step process that Randy has introduced to the world through easier ways, and I'm going to be reflecting as well with my journey with the Underearners Anonymous steps as well. So, Randy, since we got started a little late today, let's just do a check-in. How are you doing? How are you arriving? What are you bringing? And yeah, what's new in your world today?
Well, my big news is the Easier Ways book got published. It is live on Amazon. So,
That's
yeah, I'm very
awesome.
grateful. Mr.
Great.
Ken Hood helped me in the editing and formatting, getting it onto Amazon. Um, a little accountability with him as well about getting stuff done. So, Ken, if you're listening, thank you. Um, yeah, so I'm very eager to have this discussion today. I would like to spend a little more time on what you're bringing here regarding under-earning and financial trauma. Um, but yeah, let's see what comes our way.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, and on that note, I also had a meeting a couple of nights ago where we talked about universal basic income and what really is the barriers to that. And a lot of the times, it's not necessarily policy. It's not it's not about implementation. It's more about recognizing our own value. And for me, the way that shows up is especially in political discussions or in very heated conversations where um, really noticing how the culture is shifting from, arguing over what you think is right and just kind of holding space for each other to map the real experience. And for me, that shows up as, well, what's the trauma underneath people's sense of self-worth? Because a lot of the time when there's a lot of pushback against an idea like universal basic income, we talked a lot about how mean people can be, especially to the homeless or the people who have addiction problems or issues. And really, my interpretation of that is there's trauma underneath that. Why people act rude to those people who are struggling. So yeah, so it was a really productive conversation, and we're starting to role model different ways of speaking to each other, kind of like, the way you and I are role modeling this step program, 12-step program as well. Not about arguing for, a certain ideology or what's right or wrong, but getting underneath the story about you know, what is what is kind of fueling the conflict. And for me, that is really understanding what is the trauma underneath it. So that's yes, that's what's alive with me. And there's a lot of wonderful opportunities that have been emerging in my world, and maybe that will come into play here as we continue to talk about this fifth step. So, Randy, I'll let you take it away first. So, from the I'm sorry, not from the Under Earners Anonymous, from the Easier Ways, uh, 12 steps. Can you read to us what step five is for easier ways of recovery?
So, as I wrote it, we admitted to ourselves and another human being the exact nature of the unhealthy behaviors resulting from our misunderstandings and misconceptions.
Hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. And
Yes.
so it's very much in line with what you shared. I think everyone has at least, oh gosh, somewhat of a clue, some more than others, that,
Hmm.
again, I'm hurt because of. And again, if you're new to this series, what we've been referring to as trauma is
Hmm.
unprocessed emotions. We've had events that's
Yeah.
happened to us, and it typically leans towards the times when we felt unsafe. There can be unprocessed emotions of joy even as well too, because then there's a bit of the
Hmm.
imposter syndrome going on. Again,
Yes.
speaking of worthiness and stuff, but again, for the listener here, if you've quote unquote pushed things down, You haven't allowed this to come to your consciousness and allow that energy to be naturally dissipated. Um, yeah, this is with us. So that's what I mean about misconceptions and misunderstandings. We may have been frightened for a very long list of reasons
Mhm.
and such. And what we're concluding that those reasons are not the whole picture.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Absolutely.
that's what I'd like to get into and kind of put it specifically into the areas of times people felt unsafe about, their financial situation, which of course really is your, survival in this modern world. So I think the listener here can kind of get it and stuff. Yeah, if you're wondering if you're going to be able to keep a roof over your head, if you're going to be able to have food on the table for your family and such. For myself, times and stuff where I've got some money coming in for my job, but I can't pay all the bills. What are the ones that I'm going to pay this month, and what are the ones that are just going to go overdue? Um, may kind of seem like not that big of a deal, but this is why we're talking about it. It is so common and so often referred to as this is just how it is that we dismiss that it's affected us and it shapes how we see ourselves and our relationships with the world. So, yeah, do you have Under Anonymous's version of Step Five handy?
I do. Yes. So I'll read step 5 from the 12 steps of Under Earners Anonymous. And that is admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. So this is an interesting to me as well too, because there's languaging here that I find can be triggering for some people, especially when talking about the religious context of God and looking at wrongs. One of the things that I really like to emphasize as well is that there's not to me there's not so much as right or wrong, but it's more about what is the feeling associated with it, what is the trauma that's coming up when you admit to yourself something that you might have done wrong or you might have had a misunderstanding about. Something that came up for me recently in the last couple of days where I had to be very honest with myself about a misstep that I made was so I'm following the news, I'm following politics, and I learned that there was like like an overwhelming vote for the way it was presented, an overwhelming vote where Congress voted not to reveal the sexual harassment or misconduct in Congress. So of course the way that was presented, I'm like, oh wow, that's something we really need to talk about. And uh, based on the storyteller's perspective, I felt aligned with that because it's kind of like, oh, this reflects corruption. This reflects, the wrongdoings of others. As I looked deeper into it, what the vote was really about was passing it on to the committee for deeper review, but also that there was not enough protection there for the survivors of sexual trauma or sexual abuse as well too. Now, I'm not saying any perspective is right or wrong, but it did make me take a look inside and make me had to be very honest with myself how much I kind of jumped on that bandwagon based on the storytellers the storyteller's perspective. So so that was where I was honest to myself, and now I'm being honest with you about it, Randy, as well. And and we're continuing to have conversations about what our understanding of what God is, or the field, or source, or whatever placeholder name you want to put on it. So I feel like that moment that I experienced earlier in the week was kind of living up to step number 5, and that's making an honest assessment of something where I misstepped or I just needed to correct myself. So that was so that was my experience with step 5. And yeah, so let me turn it back to you and ask you, what did you hear in that? What would you like to reflect back based on that sharing, does it tie into your step five?
Well, so there is certainly some continuity here, but also for the listeners, again, if you're just tuning in, step four and step five are actually kind of, I don't know, integrated. The step
Yeah.
four would be similar to what actually step 10 really, but not to get ahead of it. What Mike was just sharing was more personal introspection. So step four
Hmm.
is we're listing the resentments. Again, we're determining what our part is in the situation where we've got regrets and resentments. Okay,
Hmm.
in earners on, which by the way is using I'm familiar with it with Alcoholics Anonymous. It is Alcoholics Anonymous big book that for this case. So when we're getting into step five, you would have basically gone, hey, look, this is how I see this situation, how it affects me in these areas of my life. Okay. And
Hmm.
determining, oh my gosh, because I've had this way of seeing myself. And to simplify it, really, it's expectations.
Hmm.
And what you expected was this to be validation for corruption, is what I heard. Also,
Hmm.
okay,
Yeah.
yep, here's another example of showing this corruption that I am basically certain of. Okay. And what you
Hmm.
had is you had in your moment of your contemplation of it, you realized that there was more to the situation than, again, you expected it to be. So that would,
Yeah.
in regards to again the process of what my part is in a relationship, could be that say we were disagreeing with it,
Hmm.
and again I would understand my part in that disagreement, which is again basically an expectation. I expected Mike to agree with me, and because not Mike is not agreeing with me, and
Hmm.
has spoken out about me to other people. Again, it affects my self-esteem and all this type of stuff. And naturally now our relationship is strained, if not broken. So
Hmm.
having a neutral person, you're sharing this with another person. And traditionally it's someone else in the program that's gone through this process as well. But you could do this with anyone that you feel is a confidant and
Hmm.
wise counsel.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, when you use the reference of God in the step, there sometimes people will take it to their priest, their pastor, and such. It does not necessarily mean that you would go to, again, in AA, you would go to another alcoholic, but usually the person that's been guiding you through this process of understanding the problem better, understanding the solution better, um, helping come to a point where you've made a commitment to do what's ever needed to have a fresh start in life is my language. And so the third step is made a decision to turn your will and your life over to, or turn my anyway my thoughts and my actions over to the care of God as I understand Him. And
Hmm.
basically, again, we're getting into the process. Okay, what's the first part of this? It's like, well, let's get clarity and confirmation on the causes and conditions that have brought me to this life. Lots and lots of words and stuff to say. It's like, what are your expectations and how have they affected you in your relationships and such? Myself, boy, it was really hard to admit. There's even a little bit of a sting to say this now. I, as a grown man, was addicted to blaming people. I would not take
Hmm.
responsibility for my life. Things were going
Yeah.
wrong. No, it's not my fault. And I would have a very at least to myself, a very convincing reason why you're to blame, not me.
Right.
And when I saw that, the truth will set you free, but it'll usually upset you first. Yeah, there
Hmm.
was an uneasiness, a kick in the gut. It was just, but after that initial kind of jolt of it, there was a lightness. There was a bit of a liberation of seeing this. And it was again, it's an epiphany. There was many epiphanies through this process, but it's probably the biggest epiphany that changed my life going through this. But that's
Hmm.
mine. Now,
Yeah.
is all I can do is share my experience. There's other people listening to this that have gone through a fourth and fifth step and likely have not. see anything that I've shared right now because this
Hmm.
the point being introducing that into the conversation. This is deeply personal.
Yeah.
This involves our identity, our worldview and stuff. So no two inventories, and again, sharing them with a trusted confidant are ever
Hmm.
going to be the same. I've been led through this three times,
Hmm.
and it was unique every time. It was basically because I again I was kind of polishing the stone and stuff. But
Hmm.
even with myself as an individual, because my consciousness level, my ability to see the bigger picture, even though there's still moments of incomplete understanding and misunderstandings. Um, it was from a higher level. Like I was looking now from the second story of the building as opposed to being at ground level. Um, and that's again kind of the gist of what we're doing. Somebody's helping us be more objective with this so we can
Hmm.
have those wow moments. And it's like, I've never seen it this way before, but there's a truth with it that
Yeah.
that doesn't really need to be explained. There's certainly no reason for a person to try to make an explanation or excuse for what this is. It's just here's the way it is, and
Hmm.
we'll get into that more of the effect of that. But this is the basically the gist of it is I can only see what I can see based upon my consciousness level and the understanding I have. When you
Hmm.
meet with another individual who can look at this with a neutrality
Yeah.
and typically a wider perspective. But again, it's we're only humans. They're not the wise oracle. But again, you can share. And for myself, also was the commonality. Talking with other people is
Hmm.
like, oh yeah, me too. And if the listener here has never ever had somebody with them that connected and you both were like no one was we've talked about again horizontal relationships earlier. Again,
Yeah.
this is a moment of horizontal relationship. This person you're sharing with does not come to you of like, yep, see, I told you, maybe like an authority figure and such. And you're not above them either. Certainly,
Right.
if you go through this, you're not above, but you're equals. And the moment of vulnerability is greater than even the most vulnerable person. I assure you, you consider yourself a vulnerable person. You practice this exercise. This will be probably the most vulnerable you've ever been.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
yeah, it's likely there will be some moments that sting. These are so a lot of the stuff's getting revealed is the stuff for whatever reason was denied, was distorted, kind of
Yeah.
stuff. We didn't want to really look at the truth with 2020 vision. But
Right.
when we do, things change. There's definitely a shift.
Yeah, yeah, and I just pulled up your 12 steps here, and I'm reading step 5 again. We admitted to ourselves and another human being the exact nature of the unhealthy behaviors resulting from our misunderstanding and misconceptions. Yeah, yeah. As you were speaking as well too about the horizontal relationship, which is a trauma-informed value, is cultivating peer-to-peer spaces. One of the things where I had to admit to myself some of the unhealthy behaviors is is where I would collapse into either authority, like, well, I'm well learned, I know what I'm doing, like some of the behaviors that you had mentioned as well, finding an excuse to blame somebody else. So there's collapsing into authority. There's aversion, where if it's just too uncomfortable, just avoiding the situation or the person altogether, which is where a lot of people in my world, because I do like to get underneath the surface of things. I do like to integrate the deeper emotions. So my experience of that has been people have avoided me or had been averting me, been aversive of me. And I collapse back into authority, meaning like, well, they're not, they're cowards. They're not ready for this. They're, whatever story I put into that situation. So that was an unhealthy behavior. So, looking at where does it collapse in authority, aversion, and extraction, where, trying to sell people the right way or the one right way of doing things, which is, one of those supremacy behaviors that we were talking about last time as well. Collapsing into extraction, collapsing into that one right way of doing things. Like we're having this conversation here, and it presents a pathway to looking at under earning and perhaps find reversals to it. But it's not the one right way to do things. It's an invitation to bring people together and start mapping out, first of all, what is, and this might be different for everybody, for each person listening, this might be different, but what is the root cause? What is the root cause of what Bruce Lee would say? What is the root cause of my ignorance? So I do see that this step five of admitting to ourselves the exact nature of the unhealthy behavior. It's uprooting, the ignorance. And then once we're able to look at ourselves honestly and hold ourselves accountable, not call ourselves out, but call ourselves in, to accountability. Now that we're aware of our ignorance, what then becomes, how do we look at, what is the root cause of that? And that's going to be different for everybody. That's going to be different. But to be able to have these spaces where there is peer-to-peer support, that horizontal relationship, it does help to be aware of when it does collapse into authority, and then bringing it back into reciprocity. So yeah, anyway, that's what's coming up for me in response to to that last piece that you had just offered up, especially about the peer-to-peer, or the your words, the horizontal relationship.
Well, yeah, and then if we again, my desire is to make this again more specific to
Hmm.
how financial trauma has been in there. Again,
Mm.
I have seen consistently in my limited experiences, again, the cause of ignorance is expectation.
Hmm.
We have
Yeah.
an expectation that life should not be this way.
Yeah.
Okay. And I should not be this way. That's where things, I don't know, I'll use the shame word involved
Hmm.
with this. I should be. I'm an adult man. I'm 35 years old, and I should have no problem paying my bills right now. In fact,
Hmm.
I should have a nice home instead of renting this apartment, whatever it may be. Okay, I should have a better job. I should be more respected by my boss, whatever again it is, or again, well, in relationships, my spouse, my significant other, they should be more mindful about money. You know,
Hmm.
they should appreciate what I do for them with this money and such. Um, long list, and again, it's very, very personal, but these expectations that we carry, when they're unmet, that's when things get difficult. And the
Hmm.
solution is, gosh, once again, my battery's dying. Oh, well, excuse me, I have the power thing here. What happened?
Yep.
Oh, the dogs chewed it. Oh,
Uh-oh.
crud. Mike, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. My power cord, dogs chewed it. There it is.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and my battery's dying. Dog on it. No pun intended.
Okay.
My battery's
Okay.
dying
Well.
here. So we're going to have to cut it short and crud. But I hope you've been listening to this, and we're going to continue on more the effective once we have this epiphany, this awareness that makes us, again, made me, as much as I love to talk, be quiet for about 5 minutes. it just knocked the wind out of me when I saw things clear. And the only way that would have happened is sitting down with another human being, and we were being open, honest, vulnerable, and the truth came out.
Yep.
But I was afraid to see the truth. That's what a lot of it, why so much of it was repressed. Um, so with that said, before my battery dies and before we end this recording, what would you like to add in conclusion?
Yeah, no, I mean yeah, I mean things are meant to be the way they're meant to be. So yeah, I would just like to end at the moment asking, asking the viewer to to consider maybe taking that 5 minute pause and really reflect on it. So when we did the last step, that was more about taking the moral inventory. Maybe today the request can be, who could you have that vulnerable conversation with about the exact nature of whatever unhealthy behaviors that you have discovered about yourself. And if you're not quite ready to do that, with somebody who's already in your world, maybe consider coming to one of these meetings, or or sponsoring one of these meetings, so that we can continue that conversation and continue to explore what is the experience, what is the feeling of being able to admit the exact nature of those unhealthy behaviors, and then come back and talk about what's different. Was it easy, was it hard, did it alleviate something? So that would be my challenge as well, is to maybe start to take a list or make an inventory of those people in your world that you might want to reach out to have that vulnerable conversation. So before Randy's battery dies, I'll ask you, Randy, as well. Is there any challenge or any request you might want to make to the viewer, as far as putting into action this step, or taking action steps maybe?
Well, it's similar to what I recall what we were talking about. The fourth step is, do you want to know the truth? Okay.
Mm,
Yes, you need to
mm,
have the confidant and they're, but this is still, are you really desiring to be able to see yourself in a way that is very likely going to be unflattering?
yeah.
You know?
Mm,
And frankly, most people don't. The only reason I did it is because I knew this would set me free from the burdens that I'd been carrying consciously and unconsciously. There had been
mhm,
conversations that led up this, and again, there was written word introspection and stuff that I could see how fear was consistent in all my relationships and such. Did I want to be relieved of this burden of fear being basically the master? It was in my unconscious. We're taking this is integration process. This is taking the unconscious and making it conscious. So if that's
mhm.
something you want to do or not, and if you say no, maybe that just means not yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
Mhm,
there's been more than one person I've brought this up with, and they're just, hey, this thing's about honesty, and nope, don't want to do it. Okay,
mm,
well, maybe it's a not yet, and then usually they're just kind of, well, maybe, and I'm like, that's all. And again, this is for the individual, and frankly, what it's meant to do is in a very, again, horizontal relationship, let them know when they are ready that there's someone
mhm.
available. But certainly, again, this is not for anyone but yourself. And
Yeah.
there's more than one person that I've encountered that just said, I'm not going to do it. And if you're one of
Mhm.
those persons that say, I'm not going to do it, should not be any type of burden or baggage from that. It's just it's in
Yeah.
the spirit of this step of being rigorously honest while also trying your best to be patient and kind with yourself. That's, I guess,
Yeah.
really all those words were leading up. This is a process not of self-condemnation, not of self-criticism, and such. This is an exercise that you'll treat yourself in the same type of patience and kindness that you would as a friend. So you're kind of making
Yeah.
friends with yourself. I've joked around for years. I made friend with my demons.
Mhm.
My demons are still with me and stuff. We just don't necessarily, I don't know. We're not afraid of each other. At least my conscious mind is not afraid of my unconscious and when things come up.
Mm.
Um, And when I do things that are harsh and cruel towards myself or towards others, I don't have to play the rationalization game anymore. I can own it.
Yeah.
And again, I don't have to blame anyone else. It's like, okay, Randy's back into that behavior pattern. Okay. And I used to follow it up as like, now what are you going to do? Now I trust that eventually I'll make a decision and move forward with it. And all in all, it works out. Even if I don't see it right away, all the truth, again, the truth will set you free, but it'll usually piss you off first.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and I think, you know what? I think it's all in accordance with the divine plan, if you want to call it that, that your that your battery's dying at the moment, because that's a good a good stop right now to really be able to do that self-reflection, because you're right. Not everybody will do this, and not everybody is ready for that step as well. I think that's why I'm so passionate about kind of putting this out there as as a living library, as a human library first, so that people can at least kind of be a fly on the wall, or at least can observe, the conversations while they're still a little bit more lower stakes. Because, you and I can get into our own moral inventories. We trust each other to be able to do that. But just role modeling that can be a good first step for someone who's still working on the trust, still working on the safety that's needed to confront that within themselves. So yeah, so I think this is all timing out perfectly.
I do too. I do too.
Yep.
And that said, yes, I have a phone that's fully charged. So when we will be able to come back and do step six right away.
Okay, great. All right, great. So then we will pause here, and I will pause the recording,